on my food blog. This is Kiersten Sadlier, and she is here to help me learn how to make a flourless chocolate cake.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great. And just a side note about Kiersten, and I think I'm going to have her on my show again if she'll come back, but she has to eat gluten-free. And this is a dessert that is gluten-free. So anybody out there that has an allergy to gluten, stay tuned for this recipe. I'm Stacy Archer, and this is my blog, 7 Plates. So what is the first thing we do? What are the ingredients and how do we make this?
Okay, so this flourless cake is gluten-free, just as some basic, you have some chocolate chips, melted butter, some eggs, and cocoa powder really brings in the flavor. The first step for this cake is going to be taking a pan. It really can be any circular pan that you have. And you're going to take a piece of parchment paper and line it just on the bottom of the pan. You're going to spray it with some Pam or whatever nonstick spray you have. And this is just so when you flip the cake in the end, it has a very smooth finish.
And that's so important because I think it's easy to say, oh, I don't need that step, I'll just spray the pan.
Yeah.
But for something like this, a cake that's so dense and so rich, you really want to make sure you can get it out of the pan easily, so don't skip this step.
Yes, it's very important.
Okay, so what's next?
So our first really official step is going to be taking your ½ cup of bittersweet and we're going to put it in a microwave safe bowl. And then we're going to take the half cup of semi-sweet, put in a microwave bowl, and then we have 4 ounces of butter. There's at room temperature that we are going to also add to the bowl.
So this is half a stick of butter.
Yes.
Softened. We cheated a little bit because I forgot to soften it, so we just microwaved it slightly. But then again, that's ½ a cup of semi-sweet morsels and ½ a cup of bittersweet morsels. And it's in a bowl, so next step is the microwave.
Yes, and we're gonna put in the microwave for a minute, and then after that, straight after a minute, we're gonna do 15-second intervals to really keep it smooth and consistent.
Great, so let's do that.
So we're gonna add this into a separate bowl, much larger bowl, because we're gonna add a lot more ingredients.
So we've got melted chocolate going into the bowl. This is what we're starting with for the cake mixture, and I can just smell the chocolate right now, and I can't wait to lick the bowl.
Very good.
I'll take that for you.
All right, perfect.
And then what's next?
So we're gonna add 3/4 cup of some sugar in there.
Okay, 3/4 cup of granulated sugar.
Yes. We're gonna add basically ½ a tablespoon of some salt.
Okay.
And then 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. And the vanilla extract is technically optional, but it tastes super good with it.
Yeah,
so
you can tell a difference. I know this myself. When you skip out on putting vanilla in because you think you can get away with it, there is a difference.
Oh, for sure.
You don't notice it at first, but then when you have it with vanilla in it, you're like, that was the key ingredient I was missing.
For sure. So that is actually all that we have for our dry ingredients.
Okay, so do I go ahead and start mixing
Yes.
this? Okay, let's go ahead and get this on. Okay, Kiersten, so how long do we beat this for?
So you're gonna beat it probably for 30 seconds or less. You really just eyeball it and keep the setting of whatever tool you're using pretty light.
Okay, so here we go.
Perfect. And once it's done beating, you're gonna add 3 eggs. So let's just get some eggs.
And so while we're waiting for you to crack the eggs into the cake mixture, explain to people who don't understand what makes gluten-free food gluten-free. I know that's a basic question, but for those that don't have an allergy to gluten, it's, yeah, you know, is it flour? Is that what it is?
So flour is actually one of the big gluten-containing ingredients, but you can still go to the store and buy gluten-free flour. For example, almond flour, coconut flour, there's all these different variations of flour that are considered gluten-free, but gluten is really just anything that makes something rise. Like in pizza dough, you're not gonna have, like in gluten-free dough, you're not gonna have a big fluffy crust because there's nothing to rise. And there's a lot of there's a whole scientific definition of what gluten is and yeast and all this stuff, but basically just starch. Potato is really the only starch that doesn't have gluten in it unless you fry it or do something.
So I know there's all these rules, and we're gonna come back and get some tips on other recipes from Kiersten in a minute, but know that this is a decadent dessert that you don't need to miss out on. It is gluten-free because it doesn't have the flour.
Yes, it's just naturally gluten-free. Any flourless cake is gluten-free, and you can also make this dairy-free if you have a dairy substitute for the eggs and chocolate.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna go ahead and you've got 3 eggs in there. We're gonna go ahead and blend this again.
Again, you're just gonna blend until really mixed together. You just kind of are eyeballing it.
Okay, and they're coming together. I'm gonna put it up just a little bit higher. Looking good?
Yes, looks perfect.
Okay, so the eggs are now blended. We have one final ingredient.
Yes. So the last ingredient is going to be some cocoa powder. Really, any sort of cocoa powder works. It's a 1/2 cup, and you just add it in. In this, we're not going to want to blend. We're going to want to stir. So
okay, so just lightly stir. Plus, for anyone that knows, when you put a dry ingredient and a wet ingredient, you don't want to turn it on high.
No.
Because you will have cocoa powder everywhere. Your white shirt will be brown.
Oh, yes.
So we're just going to do a light stir.
Yes.
Is that good?
Keep going until it will get a really dark liquid consistency. It might take a little longer because it is kind of a thick powder, but definitely worth the wait.
Wow. This looks almost like chocolate frosting to me. It's hard to believe this is going to be a cake.
I know. Done stirring. It's ready for the pan, so let's go ahead and put it in.
Oh, wow, it's really thick.
It's great.
It's thick. It's gooey, chocolatey, and thick. I know I'm gonna love it.
And you really can just put it in the bowl, and then after all of it's in, you can kind of even it out, but just put it all in.
Yeah, just get it all in there.
We have 1/2 cup of heavy cream that we're gonna pour in. And you really just want to heat this cream until it's right before a simmer. So when there's bubbles forming around the edge of the pan. As soon as this cream heats up, we're going to add it into a bowl of bittersweet and semi-sweet chocolate chips that we already have put in. So now that we have finished stirring and it's a very smooth consistency, we're going to add it right on top. And I find that the best way to do this is just with a spoon and literally just starting in the middle and kind of spooning it.
And it kind of just spreads,
yeah,
right?
all around the cake. If you pour it, it might go too fast and it won't be as even. So I literally just spoon it around. And then at the end, you'll see me kind of smooth it out with the edge of the back of the spoon.
Great. So this is chocolate on chocolate.
Yes.
I would say anybody who likes chocolate is gonna love this cake.
So that looks about perfect for the top coat. And then with the chocolate that you have left over, you're gonna take little baby amounts, kind of just do it over the edges, just
And
like
let it
she
just
said.
kind of fall.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every inch or so, maybe, just to kind of.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yes.
And it's nice and thick, so it's not just spreading all over my cake plate.
Yes.
This is great.
So now, as you can see, the glaze is finally done. And I like to top my cake off with some powdered sugar and some raspberries. This is all a personal preference, and you can top it off with nothing. You can top it off with strawberries, no sugar. It's really up to you.
I think that I love the idea of having a tart raspberry with a really sweet, rich cake. So I love that idea. Oh, and you're putting powdered sugar on too.
Yes. So we're gonna do some powdered sugar first, and you can go as light or as heavy as you want. I like to get a nice top layer on it. Sure gets on the edges. And I think that looks perfect for us. And then after, we're gonna add some raspberries. These are all, again, up to your preference. You can add as many berries as you want or as little berries as you want.
How do you normally do it? Do you just put them all around the edge?
Yep.
Okay, I'll help you do it.
Perfect. I've done one cake where the person I was making it for wanted a big stack right in the middle.
Oh yeah,
So.
yeah, you can do that. And I like the idea that you can, again, the tartness of the fruit, I think is a good play against the sweetness of the cake.
Yes.
But you know, you can have fun with it. You can do a nice whipped cream on top. You can do a syrup of some sort that goes with it, although it really doesn't need it because it's got all that ganache. So, but it looks beautiful. Okay, well there you have it. This is Kiersten's Flourless chocolate cake, gluten-free.
Yes.
And I'm sure it's gonna be delicious. We're gonna have a bite in just a minute. That is really good.
I love it because the glaze, the sweeter glaze offsets some of the darker taste in the actual cake. It's one of my favorite desserts.
Well, this cake won't stay around here much longer. Thanks for joining us, and we'll have Kiersten back sometime real soon.